One day before Ohio State takes the field for a full-fledged scrimmage, the Buckeyes out on the practice field on a Friday. Lettermen Row was there to watch it. The entire media was there to watch it. And I'll just come out and say the opinion of one man. That was an uninspiring practice, fellas. I don't think the Buckeyes had their best stuff. We heard as much from Emeka Ibuka, who completely agreed. That kind of the sentiment that I got. Of course, there's a scrimmage tomorrow. I think they were looking ahead to that. But I don't think this was Ohio State's best practice, but there's still a lot to take away from it. So that's what we're going to do. The 40-year vet, Tim May. That's Andy Backstrom. Tim, big takeaways from today.
Yeah, it was, at times it was inspiring, at times it was uninspiring. I mean, just watching, but maybe that's the way practice always is. We don't get to watch full practices hardly anymore. But what I like about practice, the ones we've seen so far, is I like the way they split the squad up and basically have two scrimmages to a certain extent going on at the same time. It's really interesting to see who's out there, who's making plays, who's stepping up. Like, there was no denying Carnell Tate had a pretty good day today, in my opinion. The freshman wide receiver. Saw very few balls thrown to Marvin Harrison Jr., at least from my vantage point. And I thought the quarterbacks were really up and down. I'm talking about basically the two leading contenders, Devin Brown and Cal McCord. At one point, Devin Brown was running with the first team when they did some real total team stuff. What that means, and probably was just his day to get to do that. I don't think either quarterback had I'm talking about Cal McCord and Devin Brown. Either one of them had a stellar day. And then, of course, you see the experiments going on the offensive line. I don't mean to cover all the bases here because we can fill in the blanks, but Josh Fryer at right tackle, Josh called me Jimmy Simmons at left tackle with the number one group, and Carson Hinsman at center. We're like more than a week into camp now. Maybe we're seeing something.
Yeah. Andy?
I think it's time to get on the Jimmy Simmons train if you're not already at this point, because shed his black stripe yesterday along with Victor Cutler Jr., and he was out there with the first team a lot of today's practice at that left tackle spot. And that goes back to what Ryan Day said, that they're switching these guys left and right side, and we saw a lot of Josh Fryer on the right side. So I think get used to seeing some of that mix-up in training camp, the rest of training camp with the offensive line. But Jimmy Simmons is definitely here to stay and making impact already. Also, I would say my quarterback takeaway is that, yes, they were up and down, both of them, but I thought that there were times where Kyle really got in a rhythm, and I felt like he was hitting guys in stride, whereas other times I felt Devin would get a little bit of happy feet. Some of that was the pressure he was facing from the defensive line, which I thought had a better day, at least against the second-team O-line. And so sometimes that was causing Devin trouble, throwing behind receivers, being short on throws. So I felt like Kyle probably had the better day of the two, but it's definitely still a competition.
I watched the on-air routes. I thought Devin was a little sporadic. I've seen that a little bit more than I've seen from Kyle. I don't see as much of a competition as you guys both do, but I also haven't seen as much of a competition since January. I think we're just at a fundamental disagreement on that, which is fine. Like, that's why we do this, right? But I think that sooner rather than later, you're going to hear Kyle McCord named the starter. I just think he's having better days. And when you keep compounding better days, that leads to not a coronation, but I think that's going to lead to him winning the job. We all predicted that. Obviously, I don't think you guys are saying that Devin's going to, but I just don't see the same competition, I don't think, at this stage in camp. With that being said, like you said, the defensive line was awesome as usual. I will note that Mike Hall goes down, has something. We're going to have to figure that out. Of course, he was back sprinting a little bit and doing that, but you don't want to see guys going down.
Yeah, but my goodness, before he went down.
Yeah.
He was tearing it up.
Kenyatta Jackson goes.
He basically got the breath knocked out of him. He got landed on, but right in front of me, I think he's going to be okay. I'm talking about Kenyatta Jackson.
Yeah. But that's the cost
in a game.
The cost of doing business here is that these guys. It was a physical practice for the most part. As nonchalant as I thought it was at times, there were some physical aspects of it. I thought there were some good moments of it. I think,
and it wasn't even full contact yet.
JT Tuimoloau obviously showing a lot. There's been some full contact stuff, and tomorrow I believe will be more. Maybe not complete tackling, but it's an interesting time right now. We're starting to get some things sorted out, but just when you think you're starting to learn some stuff, there's Arvell Reese playing defensive end, and just when you think you're starting to learn some things, there's Josh Proctor running with the second team of the split squad, which tells you that maybe he's not near the top of the depth chart. Like, just when you think you're starting to learn
But
some
he was named an outstanding practice player the other day by Jim Knowles, the defensive coordinator.
which is
We're
the
getting
point.
mixed signals here.
Which is the point. Just when you think you're learning something about this team, you're not. And I
Yeah.
think that's maybe by design, or maybe it's just the way that this practice is going.
I'll tell you a guy I like Calvin Simpson Hunt. He flashed today to me. He had an interception. It was off a deflection, but the deflection came because he'd been so physical with the receiver in front of him. Receiver turns around, ball bounces off him right to Calvin Simpson Hunt. And the other guy who flashed to me today again was Mike Hall, but also JT Tuimoloau was doing some real nitty-gritty work there on the inside, when they were covering him up and stuff. And you're right. I think this defense, I know we keep talking about it, but I think this defense is ready to make a statement. We'll see if in fact it happens.
Some of the freshman receiving options are still intriguing to me. Jelani Thurman, again, over the middle of the field is kind of a safety net for both of these quarterbacks, which I think is definitely appealing for an offensive coordinator in Brian Hartline. And then secondly, Noah Rogers. I know we talked a lot about Carnell Tate and Brandon Innes, but I feel like Noah Rogers is really starting to turn some heads. And he was mentioned earlier this week by the defensive backs as a receiver who's really impressed so far in training camp. We saw him lay out for multiple balls today. So that's another receiver in this incoming class or that's already here that's making an impact.
Dude, Noah Rogers had one of the great catches I've ever seen on the practice field. And believe me, I go all the way back to Chris Carter watching these guys practice. And he's like on the sideline and turns just as the ball has arrived and just reaches out with one hand and grabs the ball. And I'm just going, I haven't seen that a lot.
Yeah.
I mean, it's we keep talking about Carnell Tate, we keep talking about Brandon Innes. Maybe we need to talk about Noah Rogers too. I mean, he's got some ability. It's hard not to talk about Carnell Tate. I didn't see a lot from Innes today. I mean, to be honest with you, maybe I just missed it when I was watching the other side or whatever. But Tate and Rogers, wow, what a law firm.
I'm going to give some flowers to Lincoln Keenholz. There's times where Kyle McCord gets to go with the ones, and then he goes with the twos, and you can tell that there's a big difference in the offensive line. There are times when Devin Brown goes with the ones, and then he goes with the twos, and you see the difference in the offensive line. And both of them, you see the drop in their play when the twos are out there, right? Because the defensive line is just swarming them. Lincoln Keenholz is only getting the twos, fellas. Yeah. He's only getting the scraps on the offensive line. And that's not to disparage any of these offensive linemen, but compared to the first team, Lincoln is getting the scraps. And he's standing in there. He's delivering passes. There's a lot of zip on that ball. This is a guy who I thought it might take a while, being from Pierre, South Dakota, just like trying to learn the ropes of Ohio State. And he's coming in here. He's throwing some darts. And
he's an athlete. He's got to put on some weight, bless his heart.
Bless his heart, like he's a child.
Yeah. Well, you know what I mean. I mean, he's been playing all these sports, and now it's like football full time. We saw what C.J. Stroud went through over 3 years from physical development, and but you're right. I mean, he does not look like he's out of place, except for maybe needing to gain some weight. He doesn't look like he's out of place at Ohio State.
No, not at all.
No, there was one throw he had that it was before Calvin Simpson Hunt had his interception, where he actually dropped the ball right over Calvin Simpson Hunt in the receiver's hands, and he was like, they always talk about the telephone booth of the pocket, right? And that was super crowded. I don't even know how he got the pass out. So certainly good at those off-platform throws, throwing with traffic in the pocket. So he's intriguing. I mean, certainly a long way to go.
We talked at the beginning of this camp of the experimentation we thought we would see on the offensive line, and Josh Fryer, who started and played the whole game against Indiana at right tackle, his only real start is at right tackle. We've been talking about that all along, that possibly that could happen. Josh called me Jimmy Simmons at left tackle. I think we just saw the starting offensive line today. What do you think?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, honestly, I think that
Carson Hinsman
when they bring in Jimmy Simmons, right, it wasn't immediately we asked Justin Fry, like, is he part of this right tackle conversation? He said, well, no, left tackle, right tackle. From the start, it's always been why not put the left tackle conversation into play. So we saw him today, left tackle. It looked like it was working well with that first team.
I thought
unit.
He played well. Yeah.
I think that, I think we have to at least give it a chance with the center battle, see that play out. But it does feel like Carson Hinsman's still in the front seat of that race. But I do think that it's something to still watch as we go forward with Victor Cutler. But I do think, that offensive line we saw today, it looked good.
Yeah.
That first team.
Fellas, where is the offensive line the strongest?
Guards.
Left guard and right guard.
At guard? Okay. Well, then
I
that
think
gives me.
Center's pretty good too. I think Hensman's pretty good.
Hold on. That gives me a reason to just hype this guy up even more, because I don't care who he's going against on this practice field. It doesn't matter if it's Donovan Jackson or Austin Saraville, the true freshman. No offense to Austin Saraville. Tywan Malone does things on this field that not a lot of people do on this field. He is moving folks. He is getting the job done. And as Tyleik Williams is not practicing, and as Mike Hall doesn't need to maybe take all of these reps if he's a little banged up, was pretty heavily taped there on the ankle, if this is going to be how this camp goes, Tywan Malone is going to play, and he's going to play a lot, and he's going to be very good. I am going to start considering Tywan Malone as one of the mainstays on this defensive line more than Tyleik Williams.
Ty Hamilton, Tyleik Williams, and Tywan Malone. You can't make that up.
I don't think one of those names belongs with the other two right now. I would put Mike
Williams
Hall.
is banged up.
I would put Mike Hall and Tywan Malone and Ty Hamilton at the top right now. The best ability is availability, though, Tim. And so Tyleik Williams is not there after the first practice. Tywan Malone looks good. And 95, he pops. You can tell that he's out there. And 94 pops when he's out there. Jason Moore. This defensive tackle rotation, I think, is starting to expand a little bit, but it's also getting a little more concentrated. I've got my eye on Tywan Malone and Jason Moore as two guys. I think they're going to be able to contribute for this roster in 2023. Maybe Jason Moore's a little further down the road, maybe middle of the season you start to see him. But Tywan Malone, I think you can plug and play, and he can be pretty effective there from the jump, Andy.
Yeah, certainly. I also thought that Mitch Melton was impressive today on the defensive side of the ball at defensive end, and I'm interested to see how much we see him at that traditional defensive end position versus the jack, because his name comes up.
More of him, yeah.
Yeah, his name comes up all the time in the jack conversation, but even just in the four down front, I think that he's pretty impressive as is. And then I thought that Cam Martinez had a pretty good day too in 7-on-7s. He had a couple pass breakups.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, I'm trying to watch both fields at once sometimes, and I'll see Davison Igbinosun flash over there. Saw Denzel Burke flash several times. Jordan Hancock the same way, and like I said, Calvin Simpson Hunt, Jair Brown came on. They're mixing and matching back there too, man. They've got guys lining up in different situations. You saw Jair Brown at one point over the slot guy, and we'll see. I'm just curious on September 2nd, see how they deploy, because Jim Knowles almost dismissed the jack position the other day when we were getting to talk to him. Like, that's going to be down the line or whatever, if in fact they're going to use it. Maybe, and like he said, maybe to just spice some things up and stuff. And I think it makes more sense to have a C.J. Hicks out there in that kind of position, rocking and rolling and cracking heads, which he seems very capable of doing, than a Mitchell Melton, Mitchell Melton looks very capable at defensive end. You got Sonny Styles, obviously, who can do some things. He looked like he might have been a little bit limited today. But the bottom line is, I'm not sure we're going to talk about the jack position this year like we did last year.
Well, Tim, you remember the bullet?
Yeah, I remember the bullet.
How it was always going to be Brendan White, and then it was always going to be somebody else,
and then
it was always,
disappeared.
and then it's just gone.
It's like Barney Fife's bullet.
Welcome,
never came out of his pocket.
Welcome to the jack position, folks. I'm not there on the jack position right now.
It's like a car. It's just like they got 4 jacks. They don't know which one they're going to do.
Do you need it? Do you need it? If yes, you're probably at Oklahoma State. If no, you probably have the talent level Ohio State does. I don't see a need for it. So, what I do see the need for, though, however, Tim, are tickets to the Morgan Wallen concert this weekend in Columbus, or maybe tickets to Ohio State, Indiana, upcoming here in a couple weeks. Lettermen Row kind of has you covered in a way with Game Time, the Game Time app, and gametime.co, the best place to go find your tickets. Andy, I know you're a huge country music fan. I mean, Philadelphia area country music, it's a match made in heaven. You want to go see Morgan Wallen this weekend, you can hop on the Bird scooter and go do it. Game Time app has you covered. You can go find tickets. I don't know what the price is right now, the get-in price, but it's not cheap unless you use Game Time, because then you can use the promo code Buckeyes and get $20 off. Tim, I think there's even
first purchase.
I think there's even a matching offer, Tim, or a price discount offer.
Well, it's if you end up getting your ticket from gametime.co or Game Time app, and you find out there's another ticket available on another app or wherever, whatever, for the same price for basically the same row, the same area of tickets, you get 110% back of the difference. And you got to do the math on that for me. But the bottom line is, that's a win-win there as far as I'm concerned.
Save money.
I wish I'd had that with some other apps I've used in the past.
Save money, get tickets, go see any concert you'd like, any game you'd like with the Game Time app or gametime.co. Make sure to use that promo code Buckeyes and get $20 off your first purchase. I think that's a hell of a deal, fellas.
Yes.
As we move along here, begin to wrap things up.
Wait, let me ask you a question before you pose it.
Okay.
Did we see a lot of real football today?
No.
Tomorrow's a scrimmage. We're not going to get to watch it. Today was almost a dress rehearsal for what they're going to try to be doing in that scrimmage. You could see that was what was going on. I am just really curious when they get down to almost hitting the quarterback, which happens sometimes at times today. I mean, there was no denying Mike Hall coming up the gut on occasion.
Yeah.
That's really, Ryan, they brought it up, and that's really going to be the difference maker in this quarterback battle.
Yeah, Andy, before I toss it over to you, I didn't even hear Justin Fry that loud today. I didn't hear Jim Knowles screaming his head off like he does at times during normal practices. I think this was a little toned down as they ramp up to the scrimmage tomorrow. What do you think?
Yeah, that's ultimately where these position battles are going to be decided, is when they have actual live periods where you can compare first team versus first team, how are guys doing in those subbed-in scenarios where they're actually getting a chance against the best of the best. And I think that's why, when we give our quarterback observations, we have to keep in mind that,
yes,
we aren't seeing, okay, Kyle go with the first team, and then the next play, Devin go with the first team. They're mixing and matching on both of these fields the whole time. So it is a little bit difficult to have a one-to-one comparison watching these guys. I get the impression that during the scrimmage they'll have more of that. Yeah. But I do think that it's something to just keep in mind.
But there's no doubt what pops. What pops is Carnell Tate. That pops. Noah Rogers popped. Emeka Egbuka popped today, in my opinion. Like I said, it didn't seem like Marvin Harrison Jr. was even getting looked at, from the standpoint of, hey, don't get him in too much jeopardy. That might have been the actual words there. Who knows? But there's no doubt the capability in this passing game is there. And then you watch Dallin Hayden is still. Every time you get to watch him practice, he's got that burst about him, man, that's obvious to everybody, and his pass pro seems to have picked up. So that running back room, that wide receiver room are the real deal.
Yes, they certainly are, Tim. And we'll get to learn more about those Buckeyes next week. I don't know who we're talking to next week because the schedule just kind of morphs itself together, but we'll be here covering it.
I think we get tight ends next week.
I hope we get offensive line. We really need to talk to those guys. I'd love to pick Justin Fry's brain for about 20 minutes out here on the practice field, where the Buckeyes will be next week, where they'll be for the Saturday scrimmage, and where Lettermen Row will be anytime the Buckeyes allow us to be. The 40-year vet Tim May will be there. Andy Baxter will be there. I, Spencer Holbrook, will also choose to be there. Full coverage coming at lettermenrow.com, where we do it 365 days a year. Come check out the Letterman Lounge message board. Easy for me to say. We are zooming up the charts there. I think it's been a good month for the message board. I think it's only going to continue to get better. Shout out to the people who are making that fun and entertaining for all of us at lettermenrow.com. But again, for Andy, for the 40-year vet Tim May, I'm just Spencer Holbrook. Have a great weekend, folks. We'll see you back in the Woody Hayes Athletic Center on Monday.